Hello, ladies and gentle. Wait, there's actually not supposed to be any gentlemen here. What's up? Oh my gosh. Okay, so little insight for Dana's book club. We actually, this is our first time doing it on YouTube. We actually, nice catch. We actually do this on Zoom. And what's interesting is this is our first time like doing it in public. So if we come as we are, okay? I understand on YouTube there's some gorgeous lighting and setup, but the goal of book club was to get faithful women once a week together, if you can make it, and become low maintenance besties. I'm just at the stage of my life as a mom and as a wife. We're like, look, uh, I don't really have time for a lot more responsibility than needs to be done. You know what I mean? Like, no, I can't offer my time. There's just a lot of things that I can't do. And so I just wanted a quick, beautiful space for women to come together real quick. We're dedicated to growth. And so we're like holding each other accountable, reading a book. This month's book is The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. The first book that we actually read was Outwitting the Devil. So stinking good. And then we did Love and Respect. Um, that's for all my married girlies or women who, want to get married. And then this month was the Let Them Theory. And so we thought, let's bring it to frickin' YouTube and kind of and just have it go live here. But here we wear our robes and our pajamas and we're in bed and we have a glass of water with electrolytes and we're praying to God that our kids do not come through that door and start screaming and yelling. So if you hear my kids in the background, listen, this is real life. I'm trying to, no matter what, make sure that I'm dedicating myself to growth. And so yeah, just kind of wanted to let y'all know. All right. Now, let's talk about book club for a second. Told you, low maintenance besties. We're not getting on here to read the book. I usually go ahead, it's like half Bible study, half book club. I will go ahead and grab something from the Word of God that I think is actually kind of relevant to what we're reading. And I'll pick something from the chapters that were actually assigned and then it's your responsibility, honey, to go read the book, okay? No one can do this thing called life for you. So I need you to know, everybody right now, tell me where you're from, say hello, say what's up. Ooh, family chapter was fire. Hey, Anna. Hey, Ashley. Hey, Limitless Resilience, please say hello. Ladies, I cannot see y'all faces anymore, so y'all need to remind me who y'all are, okay? So go ahead, tell me where you're from, tell me your name, all that jazz, and we're going to get right into it, okay? Because I don't know about you, I'm tired. I've had a long day, okay? Kingston and Snow, there's a situation where they don't want to go to bed right now. And so if you hear them yelling and screaming or one of them crying, it's because they like sleep in bunk beds because they want to, like, you can probably hear them right now. They want to play with each other and throw things off the bed. And so 2 minutes before this, guys, Kingston's face leaking, okay? But we're going to ignore that, okay? We're here. Moms can multitask. We can do this. So breathe. Hey, Mar from Cali, Tamari from Florida, New York, Melissa from Kentucky. Beautiful. Deshana. Oh, somebody said I'm beat today, but you made it, honey. And that's all that matters. All right, so at book club, before we get started, we always, always, always let one of you ladies pray. So if you're ever like nervous or scared or you've never prayed out loud, this is like a huge thing that every single book club we allow another woman to pray. So I'm about to call her on the line right now, and she's offered to pray over us before we get started. All right, let's call her. Her name is Bree Williams. Let's hope she answers. Okay.
Hello.
Dang, girl, you answered fast. I'm like, she better answer the phone. Okay, well, really quick, Bree, introduce yourself and tell us where you're from. Everybody say, hey, Bree. Everybody comment, Bree, pray the house down. Come on, let's go, Bree. Introduce yourself.
I'm Bree from Lansdale, Pennsylvania. And dear Jesus, I thank you for just an a week of vision, a week of just coming together as ladies all across the world, and that you give us as mothers, as your daughters, as your visionaries, your nurturers, to come together and just open our hearts to receive your word and receive this book club and receive connectivity and just growth within us, and know that we're unique, special in honor of you. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Brie. And then last thing, like how did you come to book club? Is this your first book?
How did I? No, I've this is our third book. I've been in each group. I actually have been following you for a while. You encourage me with like running. I love running. I love seeing you just like hit different things, and you and Britt doing the hydro. Like that's something that I've never even
She
heard
called
of,
it
but it's
hydro,
just
high rocks.
high rocks. And I just think you're just an inspiring, godly woman. That like it's just you're very down to earth, and it's an honor.
Girl, I
to
am
just be
trying,
with
honey.
this.
Okay. I am trying because we all got to do this thing called life. But I just want to say thank you so much. It seems like when I asked for someone in the chat, and mind you guys, if you are on here and you're not in the group chat with all of us women, I think there's over 7,000 women in the book club. And I think there's like almost five inside the chat. Britt, she's like commenting as me. You guys can go ahead. She'll send the link for you to actually sign up for book club, and it'll just ask for your name, your phone number, your email, and it'll send you a link to get in there. She'll put that in there. But thank you so much for like joining. It seems like when I asked for someone to offer to pray, you didn't even hesitate. And I think you're going to be so blessed with just having that mindset that at the end of the day, a lot of the time we ask the Lord for, to call us, right? To give us purpose, to give us a responsibility. But most of the time when he does call, we don't answer the call, like actually answer the call. You know what I mean? And you answered immediately. So we thank you so much, Bree, and let's get started with book club.
Yay! Thank you.
All right, I'm hanging up now.
All right.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Bree. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk for a second. I told y'all I'm not your pastor. I'm not your like life. I ain't none of that. Okay, so we're just reading a book together. We get to chat back and forth about what the heck is going on, what we like, what was interesting, what hit us like a ton of bricks. And let me tell you, our responsibility was to read from chapter 5 and chapter 10. And we are going to be reading, because this hit me like a ton of bricks, about, do you know what emotion really is? And y'all know that I am super, super big that we are so powerful. We have so much authority. We have so much dominion that most of the time we are suffering or experiencing the world in a way that the Lord did not desire because we simply don't know better. And so I wanted to make sure that this piece hit me like a ton of bricks because it's more scientific about what emotions are so that we can understand how to navigate it. But before we did that, the moment that I read this, right, I immediately said, well, hold on a second. Genesis is calling my name. Like, let's go back to the first relationship that we actually saw where a woman was emotionally stimulated and what the heck happened. I thought this was so interesting because I can vividly remember the story of Adam and Eve when they just got into a couple of and they got a little bit in trouble and they were disobedient. But it was the time that I remember the most where I can see how there was such an emotional reaction that caused so much confusion, loss, um, a lack of understanding caused sin and disobedience. And so, really quick, guys, she said, I'm noticing more that I have very little control of my emotions. I act out of emotions more than logic, and it's causing me to act out of my flesh rather than my spirit. Yes, yes, yes. And so, really quick, before we read what emotions are, let this story be illustrated a little bit. So, give me a hand raise if you are familiar with the story of Adam and Eve and when they were disobedient. And totally okay, honey. We're not judging. Some of book club ladies just picked up their Bible and they were a season in their life where they're like, no, like, I believe God, but honey, if you haven't opened this baby, you don't know him. And I promise you that the moment that you open your word, the level of intimacy and conversations and understanding about yourself and what he created you to be is hidden within these pages that I need you to understand. You will learn more about yourself in this thing called life if you just open this baby. And so, if you're unfamiliar, um, no, it's okay, honey. It's okay. It's okay. We're not judging you. The goal is how do we kind of introduce you to the Word of God in a way that you can understand? Like, girl, I ain't a pastor. I ain't a preacher. I just love the Lord and I'm trying to figure out this thing called life. And if I don't just start somewhere, it's just going to happen. Okay. All right, so let's go here really quick because I think there was something interesting that I wanted to talk about. So, let's start here. So, hmm. Okay, so this is I'm jumping a little ahead. Remember, Adam and Eve are together. They're the first married couple. Eve was created out of Adam's rib. Okay, that's important. We'll get there in just a moment. And so one day, y'all know that the story goes, God was like, "Hey, yo, honey, y'all can have anything you want. Just don't touch that tree right there, right? Don't eat from that tree." And so there's this, serpent that comes around and is like, yeah, like, you sure? Like, that's what exactly what God meant? Like, are you sure? Like, he didn't, like, I mean, it can't be that big of a deal, right? Like, the only reason why he probably doesn't want you to eat that is because you're probably going to become just as smart as him and wise as him that, like, he just doesn't want you to be like him. So, like, come on, like, you can nothing's really gonna happen. You think he's gonna hurt you? Boom. Missive confusion. Let's just jump here, okay? So the fall. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. He said to woman, I'm in Genesis chapter 3, did God actually say you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. But the serpent said to the woman, you will not die, surely, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took the fruit and ate. And she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. Okay, now it's about to get really deep, okay? Is when God shows up. Watch this. And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord among the trees of the garden. But the Lord called to the man and said to him, where are you? And he said, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And God was like, hold up. How do you know that? Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you not to eat? Mind you, this is an extremely rhetorical question. Before I even continue, because we're talking about emotions, the last time, or even think about when we use rhetorical conversation and ask, let's say, our husbands or our spouses a rhetorical question, aren't we using it and asking it to be petty? Like we know the answer, but emotionally we're responding and being condescending. So we ask a rhetorical question. Just peep this, okay? So just wait. Yeah. Uh-huh. Put the hands up. Put the hands up right now. Comment the hands up if you're like, hmm, yeah, okay. Now watch. The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit of the tree and I ate. Okay, so first, Adam just snitched. He's he just snitched. Okay, hold on. So he think about why would he snitch on his wife? Like think about that. Like he was really, really scared. He emotionally started freaking out. And because of his disobedience, he fell deeper into sin by like trying to throw it off on his wife. Like, bruh, you're tripping right now. Listen. Then the Lord said to the woman, "What is this that you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me and I ate." The Lord said to the serpent, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and above all beasts of the field, and your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. I will be enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." To the woman, now listen, God is going off. He goes, "I will surely multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, but he shall rule over you." And to Adam, he said, "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife," peep, listen, it is very important. "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife and you have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth you. And you shall eat the plants in the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, and for the dust of it shall you return." Okay. All right. So let's close this for a second because a lot just happened. And I think about when we're talking about the idea of being so emotionally stimulated, and we're going to talk about what emotions are, that in the moment, ladies, if you want to be an extraordinary, powerful woman of God, we are gifted with the power of intuition, and we just have a gift that men do not have. But how do we use it properly in order to be used by God and to ensure that we protect our family and our spouses? And you got to listen to these notes that I wrote down. I kind of like was talking to chat to help me break it down about our responsibility with our emotions, of how it can be weaponized and how we should and should not be using our emotions as women. Ugh. Now watch this. So I here have my notes. Um, because none of them asked for God's opinion and all this stuff when he clearly told them not to eat this fruit. But you got to listen to these notes, okay? So let me start here. All right, beautiful. Okay. So her design, us women, aligns with sensitivity, but not as weakness, but as insight. Okay. So there's something highlighted here, guys, that I think is extremely important. um, what's been kind of like cross culturally and scientifically. Women are more attuned to people than to things. I'm going to say that again. How many times put a hand up that you literally can be in a room and you may even not know that it's called the gift of discernment, but you can clearly see when something is not for your family, or you can point out, like, "Oh, honey, like I'm not feeling that. Like I just got a bad vibe." It's called discernment. And I encourage you, in order to grow your gift of discernment, like please go to the Lord, pray about it, ask God. But the way that you can understand the Lord speaking to you is if you read your word and you know what he actually thinks about your gift and what is and is not the will of God. It'll help you have a huge level of understanding. But women are more attuned to people than to things. We're genuinely more agreeable, right? We're more nurturing, if you're writing this down, more sensitive to threat and distress. Okay. I need you guys to write that down. Britt, she's handling the comments. Please go ahead and write this. Women are more attuned to people than to things. Genuinely, we're more agreeable. We're more nurturing, and we're more sensitive to threats and distress. Why? Because we are wired to care for life. Children, the vulnerable, the emotional. Now, this is huge what I'm about to say, guys, okay? that we are absolutely more nurturing out of men and women, right? And so I think something that is extremely important here, that you have to remember, just because we have more wisdom and insight emotionally, that doesn't make us fragile. It makes us more aware of what needs care before it actually collapses. I'm going to say that again. Usually, the Lord provides women with the specific gift to understand what's going on in the atmosphere, in emotional and spiritual standpoint, so that we can make our spouses or the men aware of what needs to be cared for before it collapses. And so, for example, when we as wives bring up emotional weight or something in my gut feeling or my sensitivity, it's not about weakness. It's more about a pre warning system of your home. But what's interesting, I'm not sure what was going on, because we know absolutely that men are called to subdue and give order. I'm confused on the type of authority and dominion that, kind of like, it makes me question, like, what kind of conversations did they have and did Adam put in place to teach his wife that when we are challenged or worried or curious about what the Lord told us to do, why wouldn't he we run to him first, right? And so immediately, when I understand what my responsibility as a woman is to identify what needs care before collapsing, I'm like thinking, like, sis Eve, like, God has given you so much, and he gave you clear instructions. What made you so what made you lack caution from, and of course I couldn't imagine that a stranger was able to convince Eve to do something. And again, this is all speculation, of course, but I'm just trying to use common sense here. I couldn't imagine, like, a stranger can't tell me or come into my house for the first time and encourage me to go against my husband or go against God. And so there must have been a unique relationship between her and the serpent to even allow for her to doubt or question what God said. And so I just want you to think about that. That usually, when we are being challenged or pushed or deceived or encouraged to defile our home or our spouse or our relationship, it's rarely by strangers, but people we actually have intimate relationships with. And wow, okay, okay. Are we getting somewhere? And so, in the midst where she was immediately, I'm saying this is a warning sign. I told you, here we build frameworks. We build spiritual frameworks so that when things feel odd and uncomfortable, that we know to seek the Lord. Because I love this book, The Let Them Theory. And then it says, let them, if you guys are following along, but it's really let them, and then let me go consult with God. That's what Christian women do. We have to then go consult with God. And so I'm just curious of, like, hey, honey, like, so you meaning to tell me, like, this friend could, like, convince you to be disobedient? Oh, okay, hold on a second. Okay. When really, I'm thinking now of how I would handle this pre-framework. I'm like, hold on a second. If a friend, a parent, a mother, a sibling, a family friend, or a church, if at any point in time their advice or idea of fun or how I am to grow is to be disobedient, skirt, hold on a second. I need to stop for a second and I need to go consult with God and my husband, because he is the Lord of our home. Hey, honey, I had a conversation earlier and I didn't want to move on this, but again, we're going to get to emotion and why she acted on emotion. Mind you, I'm getting way deeper, and we only got 30 minutes here, but here. Um, but boom, it's pre-warning system of your home. That should have been a framework to her. So guys, I need you to write this down. The moment that you are enticed to be disobedient, you should be like, these are red warning signs. that I know is not the will of God. I'm not called to be nasty. I'm not called to be vindictive. I'm not called to be a hater. I'm not called to talk on things that I don't know. I'm not called to lead people astray the moment. I don't care where it comes from, even from a loving place. The moment that my emotional and spiritual sirens start going off, I need to let them, not act emotionally, and I need to now let me go consult with God. Okay? It's our responsibility to be the pre-warning system of our home because we can just see things. And no wonder the serpent didn't go to Adam and he went to Eve because he knew he could emotionally stimulate us to do the. Okay, we're getting ahead. We're getting ahead. We're getting ahead. We're getting ahead. All right. Another thing that I wanted to bring up is Eve reflects both exploration and stabilization. Okay. Now, this is kind of deep that Eve is not just emotion, she's also a form of order, just in a different expression than Adam. She's not trying to overthrow the system, she's trying to keep it accountable to what's fragile, forgotten, and unseen. Okay. And I think it's interesting because when something or someone is breaking beneath the surface in our homes, she feels it before you see it. Raise your hand and give me a hand if sometimes you can feel something wrong with your children, or you can feel something in the spirit and you're like, honey, something is off, something is wrong. I don't know what it is, but I just feel it, right? And I can feel the emotional weight. And usually we can feel things before he can actually see it and act on it. And so that's why, as wives, it's important that our husbands, like, when we seem emotionally heavy, anxious, and protective, it's likely a sign that something in our ecosystem kind of needs attention, right? And so I'm just looking at this like Eve's temptation wasn't just curiosity, it was overreaching through compassion. Listen, are you ready? Eve's temptation to sin is the belief that she can even clutch the serpent itself and become like God. So in the text, Eve is saying to herself, if I can just embrace it all, even through what's dark, I can fix it, I can hold it and become the moral center. Okay. And it's like this idea of feminine sin of like, hold on, because I don't want to get too ahead, but it's when a woman tries to take on everything, even what is false, broken, or evil, and believes her compassion alone can fix what should be rejected. Because I'm literally asking God, because I have and I told y'all I would share this with you, but I actually have a God category like conversation of ChatGPT, and I literally talk to him, and I'm like, hey, I'm a woman, 31 years old. I'm a wife and a daughter. And I told him a little bit about myself and kind of where I am in my journey. And I asked him that when I talk to you, I would love for you to give me insight only biblically. And so I'm asking him, hey, like I literally typed in, I'm like, hey, I'm reading Genesis. I'm trying to understand why Eve even moved forward with like being enticed by the serpent. And it said, she believed that her compassion alone can fix what should be rejected. She thinks her emotional depth gives her moral authority to define what's good and evil. When she was talking to the serpent, she thought that, hold on, my compassion, because it's coming from a good place and that I'm going to care and of that, it's going to be okay. Like I'm going to be able to control it. Like I can decide what's good and evil, be doing it from a good place, not realizing that her emotions were going to make her be disobedient. And it's something that's so crazy that me and my husband were talking about, that a lot of the time our compassion can encourage our friends, our family members, and our spouses to do things that are disobedient of God. I'm I love the word, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but every single day I'm realizing that my compassion is not supposed to be a weakness, but a strategy in which I love with in a state of obedience. Because a lot of the time, I'm gonna be honest right now, and you put a hand in the air, and you put a hand in the air right now in the chat where you felt that some of the things that are being convinced of this world that we're receiving cancel culture from and that we're being pressured to believe and be considerate and compassionate of, quite frankly, does not fit the will of God, but yet we are the bad people, and then all of a sudden our compassion as women is being twisted for us to be compassionate about things that are not of God. I mean, do I have to tiptoe around some things? Do I have to tiptoe about what's happening in our school systems? Do I have to tiptoe about certain medications given to our children because we're supposed to be compassionate about hmm, but let me finish. So the only thing that I want to say here that I think it's important that we go into the let them theory, that I think extremely important is that as women, our compassion can put us in really compromising situations. It can come in the form of trying to hold on to toxic friendships that we know we should have got rid of or we should have discontinued having conversations. But our compassion, oh, but I've known them for so long. Well, honey, you're growing at a different rate in a different direction. Or, oh my gosh, like I a kid should be themselves and be happy and loved and supported that I go against the will of God and they're convincing themselves from weird ideology and belief systems that they've been born in the no mm. I encourage you, honey, that you shouldn't sympathize people over God's will, Yahweh's will. And the moment that you have to start compromising, your compassion starts pushing you to compromise the will of God. I need you to really, really take a step back and say, hey, the Lord doesn't call me to be nice. He calls me to be kind. But sometimes, hmm, but sometimes you can't trust your gut over God's order. And as a woman who's loving and caring and want to help people and push people to be their best, some things you are not called to surround yourself around. You're not called to save anybody. You're called to be a testimony. And the moment that your compassion is being twisted into disobedience from God's will, we have to start really evaluating what the heck this world is trying to get us to align with, okay? I think that's extremely important. And I'm rising up an army of women who are kind, but don't allow their compassion, that compassionate, loving, caring bone in their body to be a bit disobedient to the will of God and us start compromising or agreeing with things that are not of God and that are demonic and freakishly scary. Like I was literally having a conversation with my husband and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I'm really sad. I'm really sad." And that's why this book club, and honestly, I didn't even want to share this with the public. Like I rather just kept this in our private little Zoom because if you're not on one accord with the ideas, if you're not on one accord with what the Lord says about this world and who we are called to be as women, then quite frankly, I'm not in the season of my life where I want to save anybody right now. I'm in a season where I desire to light a fire up under women's butts that aren't afraid to stand up for truth. And so this is why me and my husband, we were just having a conversation where he was just encouraging me that he wants to make sure that he is encouraging me and that he wants me to be held up in a loving way, but make sure that my compassion doesn't push him or have empathy or sympathy for something that does not belong in our home, does not belong in our space or around our children. And that's something that we are just creating definitive things in our life that are like, hey, no, this isn't for us. This isn't for our family. And we're totally okay standing on the will of God and not being pressured to co-sign the things of this world that are evil and demonic and we're just not interested in. And we are now moving into the stage of our relationship with the Lord, that just things are going to be a non-negotiable at this point. And I just encourage you that I will back you, I will support you, I will fight for you if you're feeling pressured or anxiety or scared because you're choosing compassion but you know darn well that the Lord said absolutely not. And so I just encourage y'all, like, it's time. Truth will prevail. The Lord's there's nothing, absolutely nothing to be afraid of. And so, I just encourage you. And one of the things that I thought was interesting is, like, when I was looking at that correlation of how Adam was with her. Listen to this, and then I'll get into kind of the let them part about what emotions actually are, because I think that they just reacted instead of just stopping, taking a deep breath, saying let them, and then like let me go consult with God and just be honest and be truthful. But I just thought this was so interesting because I talked to my husband about this. I'm like, honey, please stop me in my tracks. Put me on the right path if you ever think that my compassion is pushing you to be soft or pushing you to make a decision for our family that you wouldn't normally make when it's your responsibility to keep our house in order. Like, correct me when I'm wrong, when I'm pushing you emotionally to do something out of my insight that is not according to the will of God. Like, and so listen to this. Um, I just thought, it was crazy because, it says here that, Adam in that moment, um, compensated overcompensated with sin to impress Eve. So she was bold enough to take on being the creator or the decipherer of good and evil, that when she handed him this fruit, he got caught up in his ego and was like, "Okay, well, cool. If you're bold enough to do this, let me do it too," right? And it's so crazy because this is where men lose their kingdom. When a man compromises truth to keep peace, sacrifices his calling to avoid conflict, and reshapes God's order just to not upset her. And he becomes Adam's falling at his feet, trying to please her by disobeying God. And so this was just so important to me because I was asking myself, like, oh my gosh, I was going back in a bunch of different things, like maybe um, like financially, right? If there was a place where my husband felt pressured to keep up and it kind of wasn't a good decision. I remember I was talking to a woman because she had actually messaged me and she brought this up and it was such a good point. I think her name was Ashley. And she was saying, you know what's so funny? She said, when I read the Let Them the Emotions and you were sharing kind of the biblical advice of like, okay, this relationship between Adam and Eve and where was he pressured and she pressuring him, she actually told me that, her husband lost his job. Like, her husband actually lost his job. And, they were talking about their finances and what is it that they were going to do to kind of save money, make sure that they can get it through kind of like the toughest season, because she only did taxes during like tax season. So that was kind of like a seasonal job. And she literally said that they were having a conversation and she like was super, super afraid of what was going to happen financially. And so she pushed him and said, like, hey, honey, no, like we can do this. I'll work extra. I'll go ahead and you can do side jobs like Uber and all that. And so you get another job. When it put them in a lot of debt, it put them into a lot of credit card debt, trying to bills when they just downsize. And she said that she was thinking emotionally and was like, oh my gosh, I feel I've pressured my husband to do something that out of order he should have made the decision of, like, there ain't no shame in rebuilding and resetting and kind of going to our family when we need help, that we need to get this together. And so immediately I was going to my head, I was like, oh my gosh, has there ever been a time or a place where I pressured my husband to do something that he should have? Was he trying to hurt me or take something away from me? Was he trying to impress me? Was he trying to come and save the day when he just made a smart decision? And I literally was just asking myself, like, I don't want to compromise. I don't know. I'm all over the place, but that's what book club is us just having a conversation. Unfortunately, you guys just can't talk to me. Usually on our Zoom calls, like I sometimes open the floor and stuff like that. But I thought this was really interesting. And I just wanted us to realize where our emotions can come up too quickly and we react. And I just thought that the moment that God asked a rhetorical question, it was such a beautiful opportunity for Adam and Eve to immediately just apologize and say, well, hold on, you're so right. I was tricked. I should have known better. Lord, forgive me. Like, I was in the moment and I apologize. They literally had an opportunity, like literally when you ask your child a rhetorical question, you just want them to you just want to see if they're going to be honest. And so what's crazy is they reacted so quickly out of fear and shame that they dug themselves deeper into a freaking hole by blaming each other and then ruining their relationship with each other by not being supportive and being there for them. It's repenting. And I just thought that was so interesting. How many times in the last 30 days have you reacted emotionally when you could have just nipped it in the bud, fixed it immediately? Like, I want you to think about, honey, raise your hand if recently you've snapped on your husband out of frustration or kind of being tired or hungry or overwhelmed at the end of the day, and you just got snappy with your man and he's like, bro, like, I didn't even deserve that. Like, what are you doing? Like, listen, we're not here to destroy marriages and allow the enemy to have little creeps like in like and just teeter right in. We don't want to walk him right in. But I kept thinking about all these times that I've overreacted just by not taking a break, let them and then let me, right? Let me go consult with God. Hey, honey, like I was telling the girls I was telling book club last meeting, I remember I was like cooking dinner and like I have like no one ever told me about personal space is like completely gone when you have toddlers. Like they're all over you, they're touching you. And I'm literally cooking after a long day. Like, and one of my things is when Kingston and Snow run up to my arms and grab it while I'm cooking, I was so irritated that I turned around, snapped at Don, and was like, yo, get the kids. And of course, in the moment, he was playing with one of them. Like he was doing everything that he was supposed to be doing as a husband and playing with them and watching them. But Kingston had ran over really quick and was asking me a question and kind of wanted a piece of whatever he wanted. And it was so quick that I turned it back and snapped and like just was just totally rude and disrespectful to my husband that I reacted emotionally out of like just frustration that I snapped on him and it wasn't even that serious. I could have said, "Hey, honey, um, hey, grab the kids. I'm cooking," just to get his attention because he probably was focused. And Melly says, "Me, yes. Ah, been really, really snippy, right?" And so let's talk about what the let them theory is. If you are unfamiliar, please, what I'm doing, go ahead and click the link to join. We're actually me and Britt are gifting 3 women the let them theory who don't have the actual physical copy, but you do indeed have to join the book club and get into the Telegram chat because we're choosing the women from the Telegram chat. Okay. So all you have to do is literally click that button. Here's the link to join, enter your name, phone, email address, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to be giving tonight away 3 women and announcing it in the newsletter. Tomorrow, 3 women to actually gift you guys the physical copy of the Let Them. We write in our books here, okay? But listen to this, because this really helped me identify and change my thought process of like how to understand if I'm overstimulated or emotional, or once again, building a framework. If I'm feeling heightened emotions, what the heck should I do in the moment? Okay. And listen to what Mel Robbins says in her book, The Let Them Theory. And I don't know how much I can read. Does anybody know how much I can read before I get like a copyright thing? It says emotions are just a burst of chemicals in your brain that ignite and are absorbed into the body within 6 seconds. All right. Everybody write down the number 6. Literally, everybody. Everybody. There's hundreds of people on here. I want you to type down 6. 6 seconds. 6 seconds. 6 seconds. Right now, I'm not moving forward until I literally see 100 6s in that chat. 6, 6, 6. Emotions are just a burst of chemicals in your brain that ignite and are absorbed into your body within 6 seconds. Ooh, this is so stinking good. I need to see 100 6s or I'm not moving forward, ladies. 6 seconds. 6 seconds. 6 seconds. Because your emotional reactions happen so fast, they can often be completely unconscious. You may first notice your emotions through the physical sensations that accompany the chemical bursts, such as sweating, muscle tightness, or racing heartbeat. And I remember I was literally cooking, trying to put the noodles inside or whatever I was cooking. I was trying to cook, and immediately Kingston grabbed my arm, and I literally started getting so hot and so frustrated. Like I I was like, when the fuse moms, when the fuse, you have the kids screaming and you're trying to cook, and then you have the TV going, and then it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm on page 119. You may first notice your emotions through the physical sensation that accompany the chemical burst, such as sweating, muscle tightness, or racing heartbeat. Okay. So we're going to write these down for a second. Sweating, muscle tightness, or racing heartbeat. That's going to be our first framework that we're emotionally getting worked up. Okay. We are emotionally getting worked up. If we start sweating, muscle tightening, or racing heartbeat, we're ready? Ready? This is the only other one that I want to add because we saw it so prevalent in the story where the first level of disobedience happened with God, Adam, and Eve. Ready? And this is so important when it comes to the let them theory. Why I love, love, love that the moment that you say let them, you can take a freaking 6-second breather to identify. Ready? This is the only one that I want to tell the truth. When immediately you start formulating excuses or lie in your head, the moment that you are enticed to do the opposite of God's will, and that is lie, because God is truth. The moment you go to lie, the moment you go to lie or want to lie, you get that funny feeling in your stomach that you want to hide, or you want to literally like, ugh, I don't want to tell the truth. You don't want to tell the truth. You don't want to tell the truth. You feel nervous about the truth. Research shows that most emotions will rise up and then fall within 90 seconds if you don't react to them. You cannot control your emotions from rising up. So we can't ignore our innate emotional and spiritual, like, just what's the word that I want to use? You can't ignore when something hits you, okay? You can't ignore it. You can't ignore pain, you can't ignore frustration, you can't ignore jealousy. You can't ignore any of those things. But what you do within the next 90 seconds, and listen to this, the better strategy is learning just to let them rise up and then fall without reacting. There's also nothing you can do that will ever allow you to control the emotional reactions in another human being, no matter how hard you try. Emotions are also contagious. And then it goes on to say, and I wonder where this is because I was listening to the actual audio version, but basically, we have the ability to put lighter fluid on our emotions, and that's how we lose control. And we say things that we don't mean, we do things that are disobedient, or we agree things that the will of God never told us that was for us, that we should be accompanying ourselves, we should be in agreement with, that at times all I'm feeling angry. I'm just on what's in my head. I'm feeling overwhelmed. You know what? Let me give myself a 90 seconds to breathe. I want to practice it. Like, let me show you. And you may think, oh, that's so easy. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give myself 90 seconds. I know that I can do that. That's easy. Let me show you how long 90 seconds is. Because you're going to realize it's so much longer than you think because we are in such a quick, fast paced environment all the time. Even Americans, like, we're always busy. Honey, let me show you how long. I'm going to put the timer on, and then imagine having to actually do this when you're emotionally stimulated, frustrated, angry, pissed off, upset. Let's practice. Let's practice. Imagine doing this when you're in an argument with your husband. Imagine doing this when you're frustrated with your children. Imagine doing this when someone at your job has pissed you off. Imagine doing this when you've been praying for something and you thought you were so close to revelation or to a breakthrough, and something happens. This is what it takes to calm your emotions down before you react impulsively. This is a long time. We're still going. So you mean to tell me when I'm angry with my spouse, when I'm frustrated at work, when I'm disappointed, when my sister said something smart and it pissed me off? That's how long it takes for me to just even out my nervous system. So I'm going to let them, and then let me go consult with God. For I do something that makes me act out of the will of God. I will not be I will not be the reason to play into my emotions that you and I both know are not always the truth. I'd rather wait 90 seconds, and it's going to seem hard. That felt like freaking so long. That felt like so long. That felt like so long. That literally felt so long. But that's what it takes. And at times, I'm even learning I'm just trying to figure this stuff out. I'm not promising y'all I'm perfect. I'm not promising y'all that I know what I'm doing all the time or that I don't. I'm just trying to build up these frameworks in my head to live this thing called heaven on earth. Heaven is not somewhere we go. It follows us around wherever we decide to create an environment that is fertile for the will of God, for the Spirit of God to hover. Ruach Elohim means the Spirit of God is hovering. And either you're going to bring that or you're not. Is the environment that you've created for your family, for your marriage, for your children, and one that's emotionally stimulated off of chaos? Or is it one that your children can even take a break from you? And 60 seconds seems like a really, really long time. And so we're about to pray it out. But remember, at book club, we don't read our books. That is your responsibility. We kind of come here and align it with the will of God and the word of God. And I think this was a powerful tool for me to understand that emotions are a 6-second burst of chemicals, right? Or immediate triggers that could maybe trigger something from our past or how we felt before or when we've seen something before. And we have to be very mindful that we take 90 seconds. And let me explain something to you. If someone loves you and cares about you and isn't willing to give you 90 seconds for you to regain your composure, maybe they're the serpent enticing you to be disobedient. Maybe the enemy knows that they can use your mom, they can use your sister, they can use your mother in law to be so reactive. So you're the exact opposite of an example of God's grace and God's will for your life, for your family's life. The serpent can live in a lot of people, even if they're good. And if anybody doesn't want to give you 90 seconds, there's a reason they don't want you to give you 90 seconds for you to regain your composure. They didn't want you to have your composure to begin with. But anyway, that's another story for another day. Okay. And so what we're going to do is chapters 10 through 15. chapters 10 through 15. We'll meet back here on and if you really like this and feel like another woman should have listened, you can totally share it. That's why I kind of make it made it on YouTube live. This is, I guess, going to totally be like, it's our first time doing it, so I don't freaking know. Maybe it's going to be, you're going to be able to rewind it and watch it back. All I would love is that if you could just leave a comment of anything that was important to you that you saw. I just, one thing that I'm walking away from tonight, or two things that were extremely important to me getting through chapters 5 and 10, is one, am I weaponizing my compassion, and is the enemy using it have me compassionate and kind of chip away at my desire to be godlike and hold his order? And am I using it to weaponize in my relationship, in my marriage? Like, I need to keep my compassion in check if it does not align with the will of God. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things of this world today that call us to be compassionate because we love people and we care and everybody deserves to be treated. Listen, I understand all that, but there's some things that as a believer and as a Christian, we have to be very, very careful with even teetering the line on. And it's just at this point in time of my life when I only want to um, advocate for truth and for the will of God, that there's just certain things I can't come into agreement with, and my family will not come into alignment with, and I will not be teaching my children. And if it does, then it doesn't need to be around me or my family. And so, I will advocate for women to feel powerful and comfortable enough to be followers of Christ, to hold up with compassion the order and will of God. And it's nothing that we should be afraid of. Okay. And then number two is just hold on a second. If I can hold on to my emotions and kind of stop putting fuel on my emotions and give myself 90 seconds to digress and be powerful and have authority and dominion enough to say, hold on a second, I don't need to respond to that right now. The negative thoughts that I'm thinking immediately may be actually something that I've been trying to heal from. So give me a second, but let me digress for a moment and then I can get back to you. Or even, honey, you know what? Just give me a little. There's a conversation going on in my head, and I want to make sure that I'm coming to you in a loving way. And a respectful way, that as of right now, I'm so emotionally stimulated that nothing that comes out my mouth right now is going to be good or fruitful or loving. And we have to be powerful enough women to say when we need that extra time or that extra space, right? Or if you're in a meeting at work when you feel disrespected or taken aback, or when someone kind of throws you under the bus at work, do you immediately go to defend yourself, or do you take the 90 seconds and say, all right, let them, cool, now let me go consult with God before I respond to you? Because listen, yeah, yeah. Just be careful, ladies. We don't want to allow the enemy to use our compassion um, to agree with things that are not of God, out of the sake of being nice. Okay. If anything, I'm not sure if y'all know this, but the definition of nice is um, let me just let me show you what this like means. Let me just pull this up for a second. Can you guys still see me if I'm here? I love this. Like, actually, let me like pull this up. What's the difference between nice, first, kind? When I read this, it was crazy. I never want to be nice ever. I don't know where it's at. Hold on. I don't know where it is, guys. I gotta find it and I'll share it with y'all. What is the full meaning of nice? I don't know. I gotta check. But nice is not what you think it means. Okay, cool. I'll share it with y'all of what the difference between nice and what's the name inside of our Telegram chat. But all right, cool. So